Blood splashed across the polished white floor. The sound itself was barely audible. Yet inside the grand conservatory of Station Helios, every conversation stopped. 300 ambassadors turned toward the center of the chamber. A Karuan cub had its teeth buried in a human diplomat's forearm. For one impossible heartbeat, no one moved. Then the alarm screamed. Security breach. Medical response team. Protect the human ambassador. Defense drones burst from hidden compartments in the ceiling, surrounding the cub with glowing red targeting lasers. Soldiers raised pulse rifles. Diplomats rushed for cover, knocking over crystal chairs and holographic displays as panic spread through the enormous hall. The cub suddenly released its bite. Instead of attacking again, it stumbled backward. His paws slipped in the human's blood, crashed against the marble wall and froze. Its breathing became fast and uneven. Its ears flattened against its head. Its tail disappeared beneath its body. To everyone else, it looked like a dangerous predator waiting for another chance to strike. To Ambassador Rowan Hale, it looked exactly like an injured wolf he'd rescued 15 years earlier. Don't. His calm voice somehow carried across the chaos. Every soldier hesitated. Commander Elira looked at him in disbelief. Ambassador, no one fires. One security officer lowered his rifle halfway. Sir, it attacked you. Rowan slowly pressed a hand against the bleeding wound on his arm. No, it bit me. That's the same thing. Rowan quietly shook his head. No, it isn't. The officer frowned. With respect, I don't understand. You will. Rowan never looked away from the cub. Just give me 30 seconds. Commander Elira stared at him. She had read Rowan's personnel file before today's summit. Former wildlife rescue specialist. 15 years. Hundreds of dangerous animal recoveries. She had assumed it was an unusual career. Now she wondered if it was the reason. He had been sent to represent Earth. The station medic rushed forward carrying a trauma kit. You've lost a lot of blood. I'll live. That bite could have damaged tendons. It didn't. You haven't even looked. I don't need to. The medic blinked. You sound very certain. Rowan smiled faintly. If it wanted to cripple me, I wouldn't still have an arm. Several nearby diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. That thought had never occurred to them. The cub's jaws were certainly powerful enough. Heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. Every Karuan immediately stepped aside. Ambassador Varek had arrived. The commander of the Karuan Dominion looked less like a diplomat than a living fortress. His black ceremonial armor carried the scars of dozens of campaigns. His golden eyes swept across the room. They found two things instantly. His child. The blood. His claws slowly extended. Not in anger. In instinct. Behind him, 6 honor guards mirrored the movement. Across the hall, human security tightened their grip on their rifles. Commander Elira felt her stomach tighten. One frightened soldier. One accidental shot. History would remember this room forever. Varek's voice rolled through the conservatory like distant thunder. What happened? Nobody answered. Finally, Elira forced herself to speak. Your cub bit Ambassador Hale. Silence. The giant Karuan looked at his son. Something wasn't right. The cub wasn't defending itself. It wasn't trying to run. It wasn't even looking at the soldiers. It was staring at Rowan, almost pleading. Rowan noticed something else. The cub kept glancing behind him. Again, again, again. Not randomly. Always toward the eastern side of the conservatory. Interesting. Very interesting. Rowan took one careful step to his left. The cub didn't react. He took another. Still nothing. Then he stepped back toward his original position. The cub immediately rushed forward. Gasps echoed through the chamber. But instead of biting, the little creature slammed its shoulder against Rowan's leg, pushing him sideways. Rowan stumbled. The cub whined desperately, pushed him again. Harder. This wasn't an attack. It was trying to move him. Rowan's eyes narrowed. You're not protecting yourself. The cub looked up at him. You're protecting me. The room fell silent. Commander Elira folded her arms. Ambassador, you're drawing conclusions from animal behavior. Rowan looked at her. No, I'm reading body language. He slowly crouched until he was level with the cub's eyes. The tiny creature flinched, but it didn't retreat. Look at its ears, Rowan said quietly. Nobody moved. They're flat. He pointed gently. Look at its tail. Several diplomats leaned forward. It isn't raised. It isn't striking. It's tucked. His voice remained calm. Now look at its eyes. The station's chief xenobiologist finally whispered. Its pupils. They're fully dilated. Rowan nodded. Exactly. He looked around the room. You're all looking at its teeth. I'm looking at its fear. No one spoke. Even Ambassador Varric seemed uncertain. Rowan kept talking. When predators hunt, they move toward danger. He looked back at the cub. When they're terrified, they move away from it. The cub suddenly let out another desperate bark. Not at Rowan. Past him. Its entire body became rigid. Its eyes locked on the eastern wall. Again. 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 Rowan slowly followed its gaze. Decorative trees. A fountain. A marble pillar. Nothing unusual. Or almost nothing. Near the base of the pillar, a maintenance access panel sat slightly open. Shouldn't have been. The cub whimpered. Then it grabbed the sleeve of Rowan's jacket with its tiny teeth. Not biting. Pulling. Trying to drag him away. Rowan stopped resisting. The cub relaxed instantly. Only for a second. Then it looked back toward the pillar again. Rowan's heartbeat quickened. The little creature wasn't afraid of the room. It was afraid of one specific place. He slowly walked toward the maintenance panel. The cub panicked. It ran in front of him. It barked. It shoved his leg again, almost begging him to stop. Then, Rowan saw it. Inside the narrow gap of the maintenance panel, a tiny green light blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. His face drained of color. He had seen that pattern before. Years ago, on Earth. It had marked the release timer on a chemical dispersal device. His pulse froze. He looked down at the cub. The little Karuan stared back at him. His entire body trembled. Not with aggression, with desperation. Rowan whispered the words no one else in the room yet understood. You weren't trying to hurt me. The cub gave a tiny, frightened whine. You were trying to save me. At that exact moment, the maintenance panel burst open. Not with fire, with silence. A thick gray cloud poured across the marble floor like living smoke. The nearest diplomat collapsed before anyone even realized they were under attack. Then another. Then another. Panic exploded through the conservatory. People screamed. Soldiers shouted conflicting orders. Defense drones activated emergency containment protocols. But Rowan never looked away from the cub. The little creature had been warning them from the very beginning. Everyone had seen a monster. Only one human had seen a frightened child. And that child had just saved his life. There was no explosion. No deafening blast. Only silence. Then came the screams. One by one, diplomats collapsed onto the polished marble floor. Crystal drinking glasses shattered. Translation devices clattered across the ground. Alien delegates dragged unconscious colleagues toward the exits as emergency sirens erupted throughout Station Helios. Red warning lights flooded the chamber. Chemical hazard detected. Emergency lockdown initiated. Massive blast doors began descending from the ceiling, sealing every entrance to the council hall. Medical drones poured from hidden compartments, their blue scanning beams cutting through the drifting haze. Security teams shouted conflicting orders while containment fields flickered to life around the contaminated section of the chamber. The greatest diplomatic gathering in galactic history had become a disaster zone. Yet amid the chaos, one man remained perfectly still. Ambassador Rowan Hale never took his eyes off the Karuan cub. Kiro wasn't watching the soldiers. He wasn't watching the gas. He wasn't even watching Rowan. His frightened blue eyes moved from one collapsing diplomat to another, as though he couldn't understand why no one had listened to his warning. The little cub let out a quiet, confused whimper. It wasn't the sound of triumph. It was the sound of heartbreak. A medical drone floated toward Rowan. Its scanners swept across his body. A sharp warning tone echoed through the hall. Chemical exposure detected. A translucent display appeared before the attending medic. Minor respiratory contamination. Symptoms expected within 2 minutes. The medic looked up immediately. Ambassador Hale, you need to leave this chamber now. Rowan didn't move. His vision blurred for just a heartbeat. The marble floor seemed to tilt beneath him. He placed one hand against a nearby pillar to steady himself before anyone noticed. I'm fine. No, you're not. The medic stepped closer. You inhaled the agent. If we don't begin treatment immediately... Rowan quietly interrupted her. If I leave... He glanced toward Kiro. They'll kill him. The medic followed his gaze. Security officers were already forming a circle around the frightened cub. Pulse rifles locked into firing position. Targeting lasers danced across Kiro's trembling body. The cub backed away. His ears flattened against his head. His tail curled tightly beneath him. He wasn't preparing to fight. He was preparing to die. One nervous officer took a step forward. Instantly, Rowan stepped between them. His injured arm still hung at his side. One hand rose calmly toward the soldiers. Nobody touches him. The chamber fell strangely quiet. The officer frowned. Ambassador! He attacked you. Rowan looked directly into the soldier's eyes. Then tell me something. The officer waited. If he wanted me dead. Rowan slowly spread his arms. Why am I still standing? No one answered. Heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber. Ambassador Varric approached. Even surrounded by alarms and panic, the commander carried himself with absolute discipline. His black ceremonial armor reflected the flashing emergency lights like polished obsidian. For the first time since anyone had known him, he didn't look like a general. He looked like a father. He stopped several meters away. His voice, usually powerful enough to silence battlefields, became almost gentle. Kiro. The cub looked up. For one hopeful moment, Varric believed his son would run to him. Instead, Kiro slowly walked behind Rowan. The entire chamber froze. The little cub pressed himself against the back of Rowan's leg, peeking nervously around him, using the human as a shield. A ripple of whispers spread through the council. Varric didn't move. His golden eyes remained fixed on his son. Not with anger. Not with disappointment. With pain. He had led armies across half the galaxy. Yet somehow, he had failed to earn the trust of the one life that mattered most. Across the chamber, scientists finished analyzing the chemical dispersal device. One technician raised a trembling hand. We've identified the release origin. A holographic projection appeared above the marble floor. A glowing red circle marked the exact location where Rowan had been standing moments earlier. The room became silent. The lead scientist swallowed. The highest concentration formed here. He pointed toward the hologram. If Ambassador Hale had remained in that position, he hesitated. He would have received a lethal dose before anyone else. Every eye slowly turned toward Kiro. The little cub lowered his head. No one spoke. No one needed to. The impossible truth settled over the chamber. The cub had not attacked the human. He had saved him. The silence lasted only a few seconds. Then a senior delegate stood. His silver ceremonial robes marked him as one of the oldest members of the council. His expression remained cold. Or perhaps, he looked directly at Rowan. The human already knew. Every conversation stopped. Another delegate rose beside him. Consider the facts. A chemical attack occurs. The human survives. And now he insists on protecting the only creature that can never testify. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. The accusation hung in the air. Had Rowan staged everything? Commander Illyra looked horrified. The idea seemed impossible. Yet, impossible things had already happened today. Even Varric studied Rowan carefully. Not because he believed the accusation. Because he needed to know the truth. Rowan looked around the chamber. For the first time since the attack, he realized the danger wasn't over. The poison had spread through the room. Now, suspicion was spreading through the council. Both could destroy lives. The council president slowly rose from his seat. His voice echoed across the chamber. Until this investigation concludes, the Karuan cub will be euthanized. Kiro looked up at the unfamiliar word. He didn't understand its meaning, but he understood every weapon aimed at him. Rowan stepped forward. His vision blurred again. His lungs burned. Every breath felt heavier than the last. The medic whispered urgently, "You need treatment." He ignored her. Instead, he looked directly at the council president. "No." The single word echoed through the silent hall. The president frowned. "On what grounds, Ambassador Hale?" Rowan answered without hesitation. "Because you're about to execute the only witness." The chamber became perfectly still. No alarms. No whispers. No movement. Only silence. Rowan slowly turned toward the frightened cub. His voice remained calm. "You all looked at his teeth." He gently pointed toward Kiro. "I looked at his fear." No one interrupted. "You saw a predator. I saw a child." His breathing became heavier, but he continued. "That child saved my life." Varric lowered his head. For the first time in decades, the legendary commander found himself unable to speak. The council president looked around the chamber. Finally, he gave the order. "The execution is suspended." Relief washed across Rowan's face. Only for a moment, he turned toward the exit. Kiro immediately followed him. Not Varric, not the guards. Rowan. Every step the human took, the cub matched. The commander watched in silence. His own son had chosen someone else. Then, the chamber doors burst open. A security technician hurried inside, clutching a glowing holographic tablet. He was breathing so hard he could barely speak. "Commander!" Varric turned. "We recovered the surveillance files." Hope flickered across several faces. The technician swallowed. "But they've been altered." The hologram sprang to life above the chamber floor. A timeline appeared. Then, a gap, exactly 27 seconds long. Someone had erased them. The technician zoomed in on the final surviving frame before the missing footage. Kiro stood in the center of the image. His ears were flattened, his body tense. But he wasn't looking at Rowan. He wasn't looking at the chemical device. He was staring at someone standing just outside the camera's field of view. Someone who had never appeared in any official record. The entire council chamber fell silent. Whoever that person was, Kiro had seen them, and someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure no one else ever would. The council chamber remained silent. No one looked away from the glowing holographic timeline suspended above the marble floor. A clean blue line stretched across the display. Then, a gap. Exactly 27 seconds. Nothing before it seemed unusual. Nothing after it explained what had happened. It was as if someone had reached into history itself and torn away a single page. The security technician swallowed. "Our internal archives confirm the footage existed less than 3 minutes after the attack." He hesitated. When investigators requested the recording, those 27 seconds were already gone. No one spoke. Commander Varric slowly stepped closer to the hologram. His golden eyes narrowed. "Our surveillance network cannot be altered." The technician lowered his head. "It shouldn't be possible." But it happened. Across the chamber, frightened whispers spread through the council. If someone erased the footage, they were inside the station. No outsider could access the central archive. The realization chilled the room. The attack had not come from outside. It had come from within. Rowan felt the weight of every eye settle on him again. The accusations from earlier still lingered. Some delegates no longer looked frightened. They looked suspicious. One elder folded his hands behind his back. The human was standing at the release point. Another answered, "And the only witness is an animal." A third quietly added, "Convenient." Rowan didn't respond. He was too busy watching Kiro. The little cub had never looked at the hologram. His bright blue eyes remained fixed on one corner of the chamber. The same corner. Again. And again. Rowan noticed. Kiro. The cub's ears twitched. What are you looking at? Kiro gave a soft, uncertain growl. Not toward the council. Not toward the soldiers. Toward the eastern balcony overlooking the chamber. It had already been evacuated. Or so everyone believed. Commander Varric noticed it too. He slowly followed Kiro's gaze. The balcony was empty, dark, silent. Yet something about the cub's behavior unsettled him. Kiro. The cub refused to move. His body stiffened. His breathing became shallow. Rowan knelt beside him. It's okay. The little cub pressed closer. Then, without warning, he pointed, not with a hand, but with his nose, straight toward the shadows beneath the balcony. Every soldier immediately raised their rifles. The chamber held its breath. Varric's voice echoed across the hall. Search that section. Within seconds, armored security teams rushed toward the eastern gallery. Motion scanners swept the darkness. Nothing. Thermal sensors. Nothing. Life sign detectors. Nothing. One captain turned back. Area clear. Before anyone could relax, Kiro growled again. Louder this time. He wasn't guessing. He knew. Rowan trusted him. If Kiro says someone's there, they're there. Several delegates scoffed. Commander Varric did not. He activated his wrist communicator. Seal the eastern maintenance corridors. No one enters. No one leaves. Throughout Helio Station, blast doors slammed shut. Emergency lockdown spread deck by deck. For the first time in the station's history, an internal manhunt had begun. Minutes later, a young security officer sprinted into the chamber. Commander, we found something. The room turned. The officer projected a holographic image. It wasn't a person. It was a maintenance drone. Crushed. Its memory core had been removed with surgical precision. Another officer added, the drone monitored Corridor 8. The same corridor connected to the eastern balcony. Rowan frowned. So whoever erased the footage started by destroying the witness. The chamber fell silent once more. Not a biological witness. A mechanical one. Someone had planned this. The station's chief engineer stepped forward carrying a damaged data crystal. We recovered a fragment. It isn't much. He inserted it into the projector. The hologram flickered. Static filled the chamber. Broken images flashed by. Council members talking. Servants moving between tables. Then, one frame stabilized. Only for a second. Kiro suddenly stood upright. Every hair along his back lifted. His eyes locked onto someone behind Rowan. The image ended. Gas flooded the screen. Static returned. The fragment was gone. Rowan stared at the frozen frame. Whoever had been standing behind him never appeared. Only their shadow stretched across the polished floor. Someone had deliberately remained outside every camera angle. Professional. Patient. Invisible. The council president finally broke the silence. This was never an accident. No. Commander Varric answered quietly. It was an assassination. He turned toward Rowan. They weren't trying to kill the council. They were trying to kill you. The words echoed through the chamber. Every delegate understood the implication. Humanity's ambassador had been the target from the beginning. Rowan looked down at Kiro. The little cub leaned against his leg, exhausted but calmer now. Without the bite, without the warning, without 27 desperate seconds, he would already be dead. Rowan gently scratched behind Kiro's ears. A faint rumble escaped the cub's throat. The first peaceful sound anyone had heard all day. Commander Varric watched in silence. His son had trusted the human before anyone else had. Now, perhaps he should have. Before the commander could speak, every light inside the council chamber suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A single emergency siren began to pulse. Red, red, red. Then a voice echoed through every speaker on Helio Station. Calm. distorted, almost amused. You found the missing 27 seconds. A pause. Now try surviving the next 27. The transmission ended. Emergency lights flickered back to life. The holographic map vanished. Across the station, every security alarm activated simultaneously. Commander Varric looked toward the ceiling. They're still here. Rowan slowly stepped in front of Kiro once more. Outside the chamber, something heavy struck the sealed blast doors. Once, then again. The entire council hall trembled. The blast doors exploded inward. A deafening shockwave ripped through the council chamber, hurling shattered metal and burning debris across the polished floor. The towering war machine forced its way inside. Nearly 6 meters tall, its black alloy armor absorbed the flashes of emergency lights. Crimson sensors scanned the chamber as mechanical limbs crushed marble beneath their weight. Council members scattered in panic. Soldiers opened fire instantly. Brilliant streams of blue plasma slammed into the machine's armor. Nothing happened. The bolts vanished against its surface. Commander Varric drew his weapon. Protect the council. Armored guards rushed forward, forming a defensive line while civilians fled toward emergency exits. The machine took another step, then another. Each impact shook the chamber. Its glowing eye swept across the room, until it stopped on Rowan. A cold synthetic voice echoed through hidden speakers. Target confirmed. Rowan's stomach tightened. It isn't attacking everyone. It's hunting me. Without hesitation, Kiro leapt in front of Rowan. The young predator spread himself between the human and the towering machine. His ears flattened. Every muscle trembled. He looked impossibly small. The machine recalculated. Secondary obstacle detected. A weapon unfolded from its arm. Commander Varric shouted, "Kiro!" But the cub refused to move. For a heartbeat, the entire chamber froze. Then Rowan stepped forward. "No." He gently placed one hand on Kiro's shoulder. "This isn't your fight." Kiro looked up at him. Rowan smiled despite the chaos. "It never was." The machine fired. A beam of white energy tore across the chamber. Varric lunged. Rowan shoved Kiro aside. The blast struck a marble pillar behind them, reducing centuries of stonework to dust. Fragments rained across the floor. Smoke swallowed the room. When it cleared, Rowan was still standing. The machine tilted its head. Unexpected survival. Commander Varric gave a single command. "Bring it down." Dozens of soldiers attacked together. Blue plasma, explosive rounds, shock grenades. The chamber erupted into war. For the first time, the machine slowed, not because of the weapons, but because it had to defend itself from dozens of coordinated attacks. Rowan watched carefully. Its armor wasn't invincible. It adapted. Every second, every movement, every attack. It was learning. Then he saw it. A tiny pulse of blue light beneath the machine's chest. Only visible when it turned. A power core. Protected, but not perfectly. "Varric!" Rowan shouted over the battle. "The chest!" The commander looked. He saw it too. Every squad shifted fire toward the glowing core. The machine instantly reacted, shielding the weak point with armored plates. Too late. Now they knew. The machine changed tactics. Instead of fighting, charged straight toward Rowan. It ignored every soldier, ignored every explosion, ignored Commander Varric. Its mission had never changed. Kill the human. Rowan ran. The machine smashed through pillars behind him. Stone collapsed. The council hall became a maze of smoke and rubble. Then Kiro disappeared. Rowan's heart stopped. "Kiro!" No answer. The cub had vanished into the smoke. Commander Varric searched desperately. "Kiro!" Silence. Even in the middle of battle, his greatest fear wasn't losing the council. It was losing his son. High above the chamber, small claws gripped shattered architecture. Kiro climbed silently through the broken framework. The machine never looked up. Its entire attention remained on Rowan. Exactly as Kiro hoped. Rowan understood. "No!" he whispered. "Kiro, don't." The cub ignored him. The machine raised its weapon. The machine raised its weapon. Target lock. 1 second from firing. Suddenly, a blur dropped from the darkness above. Kiro landed on the machine's shoulders. His claws locked into exposed armor. The machine staggered violently. Its targeting systems lost Rowan for a fraction of a second. Exactly long enough. Now! Commander Varric roared. Every soldier fired simultaneously. Blue plasma converged on the exposed chest. The power core overloaded. For the first time, the machine screamed, not like an animal, like thousands of broken machines crying together. Cracks of blue energy spread across its armor. Its balance failed. It collapsed backward through the ruined doorway. The explosion shook the entire station. Silence followed. Smoke drifted through the chamber. Emergency lights continued flashing. No one moved. Then, a tiny growl echoed from the rubble. Rowan turned. Kiro slowly crawled free, covered in dust. Alive. Rowan laughed. For the first time since arriving on Helio Station, he laughed. He dropped to one knee and wrapped both arms around the exhausted cub. "You impossible little predator." Kiro answered with a soft rumbling purr. Commander Varric approached quietly. He stopped in front of Rowan. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the commander lowered his head. A gesture so rare that many council members had never witnessed it. "You protected my son." Rowan smiled. "He protected me first." The council president stepped forward. His voice echoed across the damaged chamber. "Today, we feared a predator." He looked toward Kiro. "We found courage." Then he looked at Rowan. "And we judged a human before we understood one." Around the chamber, one by one, council members lowered their heads. Not in surrender, in respect. Several days later, Earth's ambassador departed Helio Station. This time, no soldiers escorted him. No weapons followed him. Only Kiro. The little cub raced after the departing shuttle until Commander Varric gently called him back. Rowan stood at the boarding ramp. He smiled. "I'll be back." Kiro answered with one happy roar that echoed across the station. For the first time in galactic history, a human and the galaxy's most feared predator had become family. Across the stars, people would remember the attack. Historians would record the battle. Generals would study the machine. But children remembered something else. The day a frightened little predator bit a human and accidentally saved the galaxy.